All right, good afternoon, everybody. We have the next episode of the Agent Spotlight, and I am here with Danielle Lower. How are you doing today, Danielle?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And so today we wanted to be talking and bringing a perspective of what we know, right, of an agent who's doing their business at a high level. And I know that one of the things that many people have been asking about is what is it like for someone to have a successful business and also be a part of an agent team? And so you are a part of the Hartmann team, is that correct?
Yeah.
And so what is the role that you do for the team?
I'm a listing specialist for the Hartmann Group.
Okay. And so in the Hartman Group, what does that actually look like to be a listing specialist?
I work primarily with sellers. I would say that 95% of my business is with sellers. On a team, how we typically do it is we have buyer's agents and listing agents, and if leads, come one way or the other, we kind of distribute amongst them.
Okay. And so prior to getting into real estate, kind of what was your path on joining Keller Williams and joining the Hartman Group?
Prior to real estate, I had a small retail business, and retail beat me down enough, and I was like, this can't be it. So I actually had kind of a bad experience with a realtor too, and it was the combination of those things, and I was like, that might be something that I really enjoy, and it's ironic how I ended up on the team, because I actually called Sandy Hartmann, like personally. I thought she was the broker, and I'm like, do you work at Keller Williams? And she had actually like lost her voice at that point. So it was really funny. And she's like, let me give you a call back on Monday. So we met. I met with her and Andrea. And honestly, I interviewed at one other brokerage, well, two other before that. But when I went there, I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is where I'm going to be.
And so was it an instant that you joined the team, or did you join the brokerage first before you joined the team?
I joined the team from the beginning.
Okay, awesome. And so how long have you been with the Hartman Group?
Since 2016.
Okay, so you've been with them for just shy of 5 years, right? Somewhere between 4 and 5 years. And
Yep.
and so how have you been able to grow as an agent and grow your business under the umbrella of someone else's team?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that I consider myself a pretty like savvy person, and I can kind of navigate things, but I don't know what I would have done as a new agent if I didn't have like my team at my constant, just I could get a hold of someone at all times. So that aspect of it, like, it was just huge for me. So I feel very fortunate to have like not only started on the team, but Sandy is amazing. And so it was like kind of getting taught real estate by Michael Jordan. So so really building a business within that, like first I guess I mirrored everything that my team leader did, because I, believe in it, and I was like, I could see how this could work, As far as like building a business within the team, I would say a lot of it had to do with outside networking, and then also just being like present in the office, and making sure to like communicate with agents outside of my team and leadership and things like that.
And so I have heard that your social media game is pretty strong, and that you've really been intentional about sharing your story and sharing your message. What kind of goes through your head as you're preparing your narrative when doing things on social media? What are you looking to add, and what's important to you about using that to build your business?
Well, the first thing I would say about social media that I've tried to do more recently is really think about what I'm posting, and is it adding value, and how is it adding value? And then also making sure to be like transparent with people. We want to work with people, we want to be around people that are like us. And so I try to be vulnerable when I can, and I try to provide value. And it's so funny because I talk to like I have a coach, and I talk about, oh, I haven't posted in 2 weeks and blah blah blah. It's just like anything else. And he tells me just think of something basic and put it up, and 3.5 hours later I have a post ready. So I do put a lot of thought into the posting, but yeah, definitely intentional, and also trying to zone in on my ideal client and talking to them. It doesn't have to be to everybody.
Sure. And so how did you kind of come up with what your ideal client profile looks like?
I have a friend on social media, Vanessa Charles. She's actually a realtor also, and she is like my spirit animal for social media,
Yeah.
And she basically she really walked me through it. And how I got to the ideal client part was first printing a list of just objectives that I went through and picked 7 of them, or describing words, whatever it is, to describe myself. And then also we went back and looked at our ideal client. Do they have children? Where do they eat? What do they, and it's ironic because I would be willing to bet that 90% of people, when they do that little activity, their ideal client is them.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, we as a team, we were doing an event. We thought, oh, it'd be great to do a community event, and we'll bring Santa and we'll have all these activities for kids. And then we looked around and we're like, none of our all of our clients are like double income, no kids. Like, why were we doing this thing when
Right.
we didn't have that narrative? Me as a man that doesn't have any kids, it would be very awkward for me to be at like a kid's playground. So absolutely, I think that most people absolutely do want to work with people like them, that look like them, that act like them, that are people that they have very similar strengths and interests. So have you been able to incorporate some of your hobbies or things that you enjoy doing outside of the normal job to help you, in fact, build a bigger business?
Well, I will say, I'm a part of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a part of a nonprofit organization, the St. Pete Glitter Queens.
Mm-hmm.
So those things definitely, I think, I feel like if you're just around people that potentially may want a house or own a house, then, it just naturally kind of unfolds. And I will say I am like I self-promotion is not my strong point. Like, I don't, a lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in real estate, like I don't want to like push or sell or so, but I don't know. I think just getting out there with people and getting the experience, talking with people and in different situations and stuff, kind of just snowballs and contributes to the business.
Absolutely. So with that, and I know how Cindy has run her business and how often she kind of not only just follows, but truly implements models, right? From that perspective, what do you think is something that you've been able to build through the help of Sandy or through your own habit forming that most agents aren't doing, that if they just did, that would kind of be the sweet spot for helping with productivity?
Let me think about that. Actually, I can tell you right away. Scheduling. I mean, it's that simple. I actually recently so I'm a list person by nature. Like, if I think of something, I write it down so I don't forget. But I'm definitely not like a calendar person by nature. But I've been making it a point to schedule out at least 3 days a week, like really defined hard schedule, and then the other 2 days is like kind of deal with things as they come, or whatever it is. But I mean, the obvious is lead generation, but my real beliefs are if you like write a schedule, everything will just fall into place if you just take the next step.
Yeah. And so when it comes to that, and I like that you saying that you don't, you're not time blocking every 15 minutes of every day, because there is a certain element of what we do that you do have to react to the work that you've done, right? So for your case, when you're talking about the being proactive with your lead generation, how have you either found ways to consistently do lead gen even on the days that you don't want to, right? Like, how have you been able to build the habit of realizing that, okay, I get that it's really important. I get that it's probably the single most important thing that's going to be correlated to my success. And yet I still don't want to do it. There's nothing
Yeah.
about it that makes me want to pick up the phone. How'd you overcome that? Or have you had that experience?
I totally have had that experience. I would say social media has been a saving grace for me, definitely with keeping in touch with past clients. Like, it's really hard. I'm not a phone person. It's really hard for me to pick up the phone, and I'll think about people and should call and don't. But with social media, I can see what's going on in their lives and message them and comment, and so that's been amazing. As far as like more so when I first started, I really had like no sphere of influence. So that was never my avenue, I guess. And I did do cold calling with FISBOs and expireds, and kind of the same thing with that was scheduling it. And I'm gonna make 50 calls today or 100 calls today, and just going through, and I think different things work for different people, right? Like I was never like an appointment person, like I got to go on 10 appointments, but I could sit there and say, okay, I can make 50 or 100 calls. And again, I guess have faith in the rest of it.
Yeah. So where would you, if we were to look at your business, right? And you said about 97% or so of your business comes from sellers, or 95, I think is what you said. But if we were to break that down in terms of, sphere, database, to for sale by owners, expireds, like where would you think your business, if it was broken down, where does it come from?
I would say, truthfully, a lot of my business comes from my team, from the marketing that they do, from the reputation that Sandy has, from, so that is, that's definitely the bulk of it.
Okay. And so if I'm not on the Hartmann group, right, and I'm looking to recreate some of that magic or some of the things that are there, and you've definitely been able to kind of, carry the torch and kind of that whole relay aspect of it is, what do you think that with the marketing and the reputation, what do you think that Sandy did extremely well that has been able to set up the team for success?
She genuinely cares. Like that's where it all starts. That is the basis of it, is that she just so sincerely cares about people, and that makes her amazing at follow up and keeping in touch with her clients, and just she has tons of advocates that market for her and spread the word for her, from doing those things.
Yeah, I've heard her unofficially, or it wouldn't take much to be official, but the unofficial mayor of Seminole, right? Like anywhere that Sandy goes, people know Sandy. And I do think that that's amazing, where we as a company oftentimes talk about coming from contribution, and it sounds like Sandy truly lives that. And I also hear that because of having that culture and being surrounded there, that you are actually the chair for culture committee there. So what was important to you to get involved with the culture committee within the market center?
The biggest drive was, I want agents to love our office. Like, I just want them to be like, we have the best events, and like, I love to throw parties. I love to entertain for people. And truthfully, I was like, at the Christmas party, I'm like, next year we're gonna just do this so big, and that was really the driving force. Is I love to entertain people, and I do like for people to just have a place that they're like, I don't ever want to leave this.
Yeah. And so how has that been kind of woven into your business, right? So of course it's one thing to create an environment that also is going to be attracting great people that you can work with and want to do business with. How else do you think that culture is important in what we do?
God, I don't know how it isn't. That's really it, just from every aspect of it. When you're involved with the culture of the office and just people, people will become used to seeing you. They ask, hey, where are you when you're not somewhere? And it's accountability to some degree, because you're not gonna like skip out for 2 months and nobody, people are gonna say, where are you? And it carries on into every aspect, into our marketing, into our relationship with our clients. And it also opens up opportunities, I think, to connect with our clients more on like deeper personal levels. We obviously, Keller Williams, we volunteer, as tons of time and energy, and we're always raising and doing different things for fun. So it's a whole experience, the culture, and I think it drives everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had said that both with Sandy naturally caring, that had made it really easy for Legion and follow up, and for you carrying over culture and kind of everything that you do in terms of building relationships. How are you intentional about finding that balance, right? So of course we know that we want to check in with people. We obviously want to be able to build a business, right? So we are in the people business until they have a real estate need, and then we're in the real estate business. How do you find that balance where you're communicating with people, being human and not being overly salesy, and yet still having an opportunity to allow that conversation to come about? How do you find that balance in your day to day?
It's definitely I think it's definitely a challenge, and one of those things that you kind of try to feel it out, I guess. But the first thing that comes to mind is I try really, really, really hard to just be myself, not to sell people. I'm not going to use any cheesy lines that I heard somewhere that if someone used it to me, come on, So I just try to be very honest and helpful with people, and also relate to them. If they are going through something yeah, I went through this before, or whatever it is. But also it gives your people kind of a comfort place to really open up with you. And when you understand the circumstances around every individual sale, you kind of tend to handle things, I guess, differently, from person to person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really great for people to think. I mean, authenticity is apparent, right? Or rather,
right.
The lack of authenticity is really apparent. So
yes.
Absolutely. And I think that what so many people that are probably either watching this or will be watching this go, yeah, I get who I am. And I resonate with what you say, Danielle, of self-promotion kind of feels weird, right? I mean, if I've not been in 100% sales, or even if I was maybe previously, I was selling something like medical equipment or a tangible object, but this, you're really selling yourself. So what advice would you give for someone who is saying, I get who I am, but how do I translate that out to my people? What are the things that I can do so that they know that I'm in real estate? They know that I'm a professional. It sounds like for you, your marketing kind of does a lot of that storytelling, where you are kind of allowed to be just yourself. So how does the team use, what forms of marketing, what kind of marketing do you think that the team is doing that is maintaining top mind share among the people about being in real estate?
One of the things that we've implemented very recently is a newsletter, and that's had a huge, successful response. And the newsletter is, here's the update on the market, and here's what else is going on. This new restaurant just opened, or these restaurants are open now, because of the pandemic or things like that. So the biggest thing, I think, with marketing always is really truly providing value to people, that they're gonna remember it, or think back on you. Or and I think the best thing you can do as any agent, like new or old, is just constantly educate yourself, and not just like continued ed, but read up on the market and what things are happening, and know your statistics. Because I would say that's probably been the greatest advantage that I've had, is I am like a numbers person by nature. So I spend a lot of time on my market analysis for houses, and I go in and make adjustments for things that it has and doesn't have. And and I think that's probably like the biggest thing that I can offer. So I would say that the best thing you can really do is just kind of educate yourself, become informed, and provide value to people, like based on the market. Yeah. And then they kind of remember like, oh yeah, that's their realtor.
So how did you get to a place where you felt really comfortable in doing those CMAs and making those adjustments? Was it just time? Was it practice? I mean, how did you really go in and start to build that craft of feeling comfortable on doing a market analysis?
Literally just time and practice. And when you start to do it with those adjustments, you really start to have a good idea. Like I know, for example, if a car has a 1-car garage versus a 2-car garage in an average family home, the average price point, it's going to be worth between $10,000 and $15,000, difference. And I make adjustments for just major things like, updates, size, bedrooms, pool, garage, stuff like that. But yeah, just experience and practice has allowed me to be pretty accurate with those numbers.
Okay. And thank you for that, because I know that there's some people that do CMAs and they're like, I'm always a wreck when it comes to presenting these to a seller. And so I definitely think that, to your point, just doing them, right? Even if it's not necessarily on properties that you're going to go on a listing appointment for, do comparative market analysis. If there's someone in the market center who has recently taken a listing and you want to do the CMA, and for whatever reason your number is completely different than Danielle's, it's, Danielle, could I see your comparative market analysis, how you got to your answer? Like you can absolutely, I think, that's one of the best things about Keller Williams is our culture of paying it forward and helping one another. I think that was one of the most important things for me when I joined Keller Williams nearly 8 years ago, was from that perspective of, I felt like everyone would, if they had the time, right? And if they didn't, they would be respectful and say, but please, reach back out to me. I'd be happy to help, just not right now.
Of course.
That culture of helping one another has been huge. What resources or tools that you've been able to use by being with Keller Williams, what are some of those things that you really enjoy using or that you've benefited from, whether it's a class or a particular training, or if there's something in command or what have you found to be really valuable to your business?
Definitely the classes. Like I've even popped in some Ignite classes, 3 years after I started or 4 years after I started, just to see what are other agents saying about listings. And I think it's very valuable to try to attend as many classes as you can that are relevant to you. It's like if there's a class on estates and things like that, and I don't know, you never think you're going to have one, don't do it. But if there's topics that are very relative to you, I feel like it's always great to get different perspectives, because you'll have someone kind of teach it completely different. And I will say this, I have some issues with commands. I won't do it here, but sure. I love the idea of command, and I do use command now as a system. Like when the lead comes in, it goes into my contacts, the opportunities, and I think there are more perks like to command and the DocuSign integration than there was with dotloop. So I do use command. I wish it were a little bit more team friendly. Just things get intertwined and things like that. But overall, I'm very excited about that software. And being that I'm in, like, I enjoy social media and I'm pretty tech savvy and things like that, I love what they are rolling out as far as just, you know, flyers, postcards, whatever you need. And it's super clean, presentable, you know, marketing material, not just kind of, you know, thrown together.
Yeah,
So I
and
do,
you
yeah.
know, they promise, and obviously I couldn't imagine the undertaking of launching a product, launching, you know, a tech tool where there was instantly over 100,000 users that were going to be in it, that were going to be putting their entire business in it, and we're going to be
No.
breaking it hour by hour. I mean, that feels like going into battle with like 1,000 people on your team where you're going
Yeah,
against 100,000. So definitely, you know, kudos to them. I know they probably get a lot of negative from us. It happens to me, it happens to my database, and we understand that they're failing forward every day. And to your point, the pros of what it will be and even the progress that they've done in just the last 3 months to 6 months prove that it will be a wonderful product. And now you had mentioned that you have a coach, and I'm slightly biased as a coach, that I know that it was transformational for my business. And so I'm curious, how have you built a relationship with your coach, and how has that really helped take your business to the next level?
couple of things. The relationship with my coach, first, you know, I totally admire what he does, and so that definitely helps. Accountability is huge. It's something that every week at the same time I'm talking to this person, and you know, there's things that we plan to do in between our conversations, and kind of just gives me like a direction. It gives me accountability. Of course, you're paying for it, so that's always, you know, one of those things. You're not going to just, oh, I'm not going to do that call today, you know. So it really becomes like a priority. And I don't know, I can't quite explain the specifics, you know, this is what it did, but do I believe in coaching? 150%. Like, it's definitely relative to the person, definitely relative to the coach, but I think it's been transformational in my business.
Yeah, I've always said if I go to the gym, I promise you I will tap out way sooner if I'm by myself than if someone's standing, you know, right next to me,
Yeah,
pushing me a little bit further. I know that I'm paying for it, but in that moment, I'm not saying shut up because I'm paying your salary. You know,
no,
I'm paying exactly because I'm wanting that. I'm wanting someone to squeeze everything out of me, and I think that
exactly.
that's absolutely what it is. Well, you know, Danielle, I know I mean, I can't even believe that just in that we've covered a lot of topics and a lot of
I
things.
know.
Well, one, it's so good for you and I to get a chance to chat, and I love getting to know you a little bit more and what's happening with
Definitely.
you and your business. And so I guess if we were going to kind of summarize a little bit, if I was looking to do something different, and COVID has caused everyone to look at their business and say, what was working well, what wasn't working well, what can I do to be better? What do you think is probably the biggest advice that you can give someone who's looking for a reset on their habits or the things that they can do to just really dig in for the rest of the year? I mean, what are you doing to dig in for the rest of the year?
If you have past clients, call them and just ask them how they're doing. How are you doing with all this? You know, how are things going? That was a huge thing for me because we weren't really talking about real estate, and of course it comes up in conversations, you know, but it was really like I guess an easy thing for me to kind of transition into because I'm just making these calls. And the more so the way that it was received, I spent probably 20 minutes on each of those phone calls, and the clients were so grateful to hear from us. So I would say if you're having a hard time getting like plugged in or started again, to make yourself a schedule. It doesn't have to be for every day. It doesn't have to be every 15 minutes, but schedule out, you know, a couple days, and devote that time to being in front of people. And if it's not calling, you know, FISBOs or kind of things like that, make it your past clients, join groups. Just get out there.
Yeah, I think that is huge. And to your point, social media has been something you were doing pre-COVID. And so I'm sure now with some people choosing to stay a little bit at a distance, it's still allowing you to, like you said, see what they're doing from afar, but yet be able to interact with them on a personal level. And I'm sure that you
Yes,
can speak to that. Don't just like someone's page, right? Or just
yes,
don't like someone's
interact.
post.
Interact,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you have, some things that you might not be that proud of for 10 years ago, put those things on private and start adding all of your clients. Like, that's one thing too. I at one point was like, I don't know if it's appropriate, and listen, I've never had one person complain. So connect with your people on social media.
Wonderful. Well, if someone wanted to connect with you, maybe they connected with you and they've got a follow-up question, what's the best way that someone can get in contact with you?
The best way to get a hold of me is you can message me on social media anytime. Also text, phone, email. I mean, I'm pretty flexible. And I want to say, because I mean this wholeheartedly, if there is anyone out there that really, really is like, I got to figure out how to do a market analysis, or, please reach out to me. Like, I can't help you with everything, but that's something that I do a really good job at. And I would love to kind of help people, get on board with that. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Danielle. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon.
Yes. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you next
Bye.
week for the next episode of our Agent Spotlight. Take care.
Bye.